Okay. Hello guys, good evening all of you. Can you hear me guys? Yes? How many of you are there? How many of you are attending the class now? Bhavyasri, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Viraj,
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
fine. In the last class, we have completed up to here. We're talking about chemical properties of sixth group elements. Okay. On reaction with hydrogen, it will form this type of hydrates, H2TE type of hydrates. Okay. And their stability, their acidic nature we have done, and their melting and boiling points. Actually, water, as from left to right, you are going, size increases and molecular weight of the compound also increases. So it is expected that melting and boiling point should be higher for polonium hydride, but water is even more higher. What is the main reason for this? Due to the presence of hydrogen bond. Okay. Next, we'll move to reaction with oxygen. Okay. Reaction with the oxygen. So here on reaction with oxygen, it forms two types of oxide. Okay. Two types of oxides. They are dioxides and trioxides, where E stands for any fifth group element. Mostly, since we are reacting with oxygen, oxygen is neglected. So here E is equal to sulfur, selenium, tellurium, polonium. These elements. Okay. Here, if you study their nature, ozone is O3 and it is gas. Sulfur dioxide, SO2, dioxides I'm talking about. Sulfur dioxide is also a gas, okay? But selenium dioxide is a solid. Okay? If you take trioxides like sulfur trioxide, selenium trioxide, tellurium trioxide, okay? Their stability decreases from top to bottom. So, from top to bottom, whether you take dioxides and trioxides. So, top to bottom, their reducing property decreases. That means from top to bottom, if you observe, if sulfur dioxide acts as reducing agent, okay, so as you are going down the group, their stability decreases, reducing nature also decreases, but oxidation capacity increases. They act as oxidizing agent. So the lower sulfur, selenium, tellurium, polonium, they act as oxidizing agent. That means they can easily donate high oxygens. They act as oxidizing agent. Whether you take dioxides or trioxide, both of them are acidic oxides. Whether you take dioxide or trioxide, both of them are acidic oxides. So what is mean by acidic oxide? On dilution of this, okay, on reaction with water, EO2 or EO3, that means sulfur dioxide on reaction with water, that will give you sulfurous acid. So they produces acid compounds on hydrolysis. So we call them as acidic oxides. Okay. Next one we'll talk about reaction with the halogens. Reaction with what? Halogens. On reaction with halogens, what happens? Let's take, they form three types of halides. They are EX6, EX4 and EX2 type. EX6 means where E stands for what? Oxygen, sulfur, selenium, tellurium, anything you can take. Okay. Normally, here oxygen does not form hexa type of halides. So if you talk about the stability, there here X stands for what? Fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine. Okay, guys. So the stability, I'm talking about stability. The stability of halides decreases like this order. Fluoride halides are more stable, then chloride halides, then bromide, then iodide. Any sixth group element in combination, so their fluorides are more stable. So I'll take one fluoride, hexafluoride. So if you observe the stability, which is more stable? Fluorides, hexafluoride I am taking, 6 hexafluorides means, okay? They are the most stable halides. They are the most stable halides out of all possible halides. And they are gaseous in nature, okay? They are gaseous nature. They are gaseous in nature, okay? Suppose if you take one example of SF6, what is this? Sulfur hexafluoride. What is the name of this? Sulfur hexafluoride, SF6. Okay. So they are saying that it is a gas form. Okay. 6 fluorides, 6 coordination number. So it is no doubt it is octahedral geometry. And what is a hybridization? sp3d2 with all bond angles are 90 degrees. So these are the properties of it, SF6. So if you draw the structure of this, sulfur is surrounded by 6 fluorine atoms. Like this. So all the bond angles are 90. Okay. All the bond angles are 90. 6 sigma bonds are there. So sp3d2 hybridization and it is octahedral geometry. This is about sulfur hexafluoride. Okay. Or hexafluorides. Next I will take tetrafluorides. Tetrafluorides. Okay. Tetrafluorides best example I am taking is SF4. This was a previous question. SF4. Are you listening, guys? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Listen carefully. Okay. SF4. If you take a SF4, here 4 sigma bonds with 4 fluorines and sulfur is having totally 6. So how to find its geometry? Suppose sulfur is 6th group, so 6 valence electrons are there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And there are 4 fluorines. So from central sulfur atom, 6 valence electrons are there. So 1 electron, here 4 fluorines are there. So 4 fluorines will take 4 electrons. They are over. So what is left? One lone pair is left, isn't it? So here you have a formula for hybridization. Hybridization is equal to number of sigma bonds plus lone pairs. Here, how many sigma bonds are formed here? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 sigma bonds and 1 lone pair. Total 5. 5 means 5 hybrid orbitals containing hybridization. What is nothing but sp3d, trigonal bipyramidal. So its structure must be resembles trigonal bipyramidal. So first I'll keep trigonal bipyramidal geometry like this. Okay. And 4 fluorines. That 4 fluorines I'll place here. And one lone pair is left. So 2 electrons, lone pair is like this. Okay. Now it is sp3d, okay, but having a geometry of seesaw geometry. How seesaw looks like? So playing, right? So here 1, 2, 3, 4 fluorine bonds. Okay, look at this. So it looks like seesaw. And sp3d hybridization. How many bond pairs are there? 4 bond pairs, 1 lone pair with sp3d hybridization. Okay. Next, this is about hexafluorides and tetrafluorides. Next, we'll move to dioxygen. Dioxygen. Dioxygen is nothing but oxygen. O2. It exists in the form of diatomic molecule. Oxygen exists in the diatomic form. Okay. So it's a preparation methods we'll see. First method is, can you say this? Lab method. That is a very small scale preparation. Lab method means a small scale preparation. So normally this is prepared in lab method by simply by heating chlorates and permanganates. Chlorates and permanganates. So let's see that example. Potassium chlorate, this is KClO3. On heating this, what is you are looking for? Oxygen. So it will gives potassium chloride and oxygen. Here 3 oxygens are there. So 6 means I will keep 2 here, 2 here. Now it is balanced. So oxygen gas is evolved in this potassium chlorate decomposition. This decomposition is favored by manganese dioxide addition. Okay, simply. Next step. Permanganates. If you take permanganate, what is permanganate? Potassium permanganate. KMnO4 is potassium permanganate. On heating of this sample, you will get oxygen. Okay, first you will get oxygen, then K2MnO4 is one product and manganese dioxide is another product. So if you observe this, you are getting your oxygen gas molecule as a main product. Just keep 2 here, it will balance. So this is laboratory method of preparation of dioxygen. So whether it is any method you name it, preparation method of dioxygen mainly comes from heating of chlorates and permanganates. Heating of chlorates and permanganates. Second method of preparation, thermal decomposition of oxides of metal. Oxides of metal. So what metal? Okay, what metals? Silver, mercury, lead, anything you can take. Silver oxide is there, suppose. It is a solid substance. On thermal decomposition, that means on heating. Okay, it converts to Ag, sulfur, solid, and oxygen gas is releasing. Look at this. Oxygen is a gaseous form. On thermal decomposition of mercuric oxide, HgO, you can also take this. So what happens? You want oxygen, right? O2 and Hg. 2 moles if you take 2 Hg plus O2. This is oxygen gas is releasing or not? Yes. Next, you can also take thermal decomposition of lead oxides, PbO2 suppose. On heating of this, you want oxygen, okay? So here 2 moles of lead oxide and oxygen is forming in this oxygen gas is formed. So this is what you are actually looking for. Okay. So first is lab method. Second one is thermal decomposition of oxides of metal. Next one, we'll move to decomposition of hydrogen peroxide. Preparation method of dioxygen. The third one, decomposition of hydrogen peroxide. Very simplest reaction this is. Hydrogen peroxide decomposes to water and oxygen. Water is a liquid, oxygen is a gas. This hydrogen peroxide is an aqueous solution. 2 moles if I am taking, now it is satisfied. And here this rate of decomposition of manganese peroxide is catalyzed by manganese dioxide. What is this here? Manganese dioxide acts as catalyst. Okay, decomposition of hydrogen peroxide gives us oxygen gas and water, and this rate of reaction is increased by adding a catalyst, manganese dioxide. Okay, next fourth one, electrolysis of simple water. You can take simple water. So water, since it is available, largely, so you can use this electrolysis of water for large scale preparation of oxygen, because water is highly abundant, so you can use it for some some thousands of liters of oxygen production. Okay, so it is a large scale preparation method. So what happens when water is electrolyzed? When electricity is supplied, generally what happens to this? It will dissociates into cation and anion. This cation, this is anion. Now what happens to reaction at cathode? Cathode means it is a negative sign electrode. So negative sign, so it attracts positive and cations. So H plus comes to cathode side. So to this, here hydrogen gas evolution takes place by adding 2 electrons. H plus is converting into hydrogen gas. Next, reaction at anode. Anode is a positively charged electrode. Anions it will attract. Positive means it attracts a negative one. So OH minus, it will converting into H2O plus O2 gas plus 4 electrons. So here actually this is a balanced equation. So if you observe, hydrogen gas is released at cathode, oxygen gas is released at anode. So they will ask a question like this. During the electrolysis of water, oxygen is released at anode, hydrogen is released at cathode. So these 2 points you have to careful. You have to stress more while reading this. Okay, okay, guys and girls, have you understood now what is electrolysis of water? So this is preparation method of oxygen. Next one we'll move to, so industrial method. In a large scale method, you have another method of preparation, so that is industrial method. Normally oxygen is also highly abundant in the atmospheric air, isn't it? So you can take atmospheric air, okay, And from this, first to remove your other gases like carbon dioxide and water vapor, everything you have to remove. So this atmospheric air, remove these first things, then you do liquefaction. What do you mean by liquefaction? A gas is converting into liquid is called liquefaction. Okay. So what are the major portion of atmospheric air? It is nitrogen and oxygen only. So on liquefaction, you are going to get liquid nitrogen along with that liquid oxygen you will get. Now you have to separate these two because they are different in their boiling points. Okay. So use fractional distillation. Use fractional distillation. So from that you will get, you want only oxygen, right? So you will get oxygen. Oxygen and nitrogen both they will separate on doing fractional distillation. So this is another large scale preparation. But industrially they will use like this. They will simply suck the air from the atmosphere, and they will remove other gases like carbon dioxide, H2O vapors. Okay, carbon dioxide is a gas, H2O, atmospheric moisture. They will remove these things, and all other gases are removed. So only liquid nitrogen and oxygen only left. So they are converted into liquefaction. On liquefaction, you will get a liquid nitrogen and liquid oxygen. And how to separate these two? Both of them are liquid and they are mixture now. So from this mixture on fractional distillation, you can separate both oxygen and nitrogen. So actually you are looking for oxygen, so you will get your final product here. Have you understood now? What is industrial method of preparation? Industrial, here, industrial gas O2, industrial method. Okay, so this is about your oxygen preparation methods. Let's take the first one, dioxygen preparation, lab method by heating chlorates and manganetes. Second method by decomposition of thermal decomposition of oxides of metal. What is the third method? Decomposition of hydrogen peroxide. Fourth one, electrolysis of water. Fifth one, industrial method. We understood? Total you have 5 methods. Chlorates, permanganates, thermal decomposition of metal oxides, decomposition of peroxide, water, and industrial method. So how questions will be framed from this? Which of the following reaction does not gives oxygen? They'll give 4 different options. So you have to choose that. You have, 4 or 5 methods of this. So other than that is your answer. So they will give any of these combinations. Okay. These 1, 2, 3 can be easily guessed because H2O, oxygen it will give. Electrolysis also oxygen comes. Atmospheric oxygen is there. So you will get. The only thing you need to practice these two. Okay. Metal oxides and chlorates and permanganates. Okay. Next, now we'll talk about its properties. Okay. Oxygen properties. Now tell me, oxygen is a, can you see oxygen? No, it is a colorless gas. It is a colorless and odorless. Colorless, odorless gas, oxygen is, isn't it? And second one is, it is soluble in water. Oxygen is soluble in water. Then only aquatic, life is possible, right? Fish, okay, whales, anything you can take. All marine and aquatic life is survived because of dissolved oxygen only, right? So it is soluble in water, and that is called dissolved oxygen. Dissolved oxygen. That is nothing but DO, dissolved oxygen. Okay. So normally, how much it is soluble means 3.08 centimeter cube of oxygen is dissolved in 100 centimeter cube water. Okay, and this much oxygen dissolved in water is enough. Okay, aquatic life helps respiration of what? Aquatic lives. Helps in respiration of aquatic life. So if this much is enough, 3.08 centimeter cube is enough in 100 centimeter cube of water, and it is mainly depends on temperature at 298 kelvins. That means if you increase the temperature, the dissolution of oxygen decreases. Okay, that's what when you boil the normal water, okay, some gaseous will evolve, right? So why that dissolved oxygen and other gases like carbon dioxide, oxygen, they will escape when you heat water. That's what you observe bubbles when you are heating the water, isn't it? So at 25 degrees centigrade or 298 kelvins, this is the dissolution of oxygen in water, and this helps in aquatic life respiration process. Okay, have you understood this? Next one, properties. So it liquefaction, I said about liquefaction, it oxygen gas liquefies at 90 kelvins. That means at 90 kelvins, normally oxygen is a gas at what temperature? 25 degrees centigrade or 298 kelvins. The same oxygen converting into liquid at what temperature? 90 kelvins. If you take minus 273, you will get that degree centigrade also. So look at this, the temperature is completely decreased 298 to 90 kelvins. So at this temperature, it exists as a liquid. Are you following?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And oxygen freezes at it's around 55 kelvins, even lesser than this. Okay, it freezes at 55 kelvins. Next, and oxygen is having three important isotopes. Oxygen is having three isotopes. What are they? Oxygen is 8, oxygen 816, oxygen 817, oxygen 818. Okay, and oxygen is paramagnetic. Have you studied chemical bonding in first year? So this is very important point. Oxygen is paramagnetic in nature, though it is having even number of electrons. Each oxygen is 8 plus 8, 16. General assumption is, if any compound will have even number of electron, it acts as diamagnetic. But it is having 16 even number of electrons. 16 is an even number, but still it is paramagnetic. Okay. Next, chemical properties. Chemical properties of oxygen we'll see now. Okay, chemical properties. What is the first one? Reaction with the metals. Reaction with the metals. So when oxygen reacts with metal, generally it will form oxides. Okay. Suppose calcium on reaction with oxygen. What it will form? Calcium oxide. Okay. Suppose phosphorus on reaction with oxygen. You have P4O10. We have already done this, right? 5 moles. Oxygen on reaction with some zinc sulfide. Normally oxidation takes place always. Zinc oxide and sulfur dioxide is forming. Reaction with, this is reaction with the metals. Next one, second one, reaction with non-metals. Reaction with the non-metals. So examples like carbon, if you take carbon on reaction with oxygen, what you are going to get? Carbon dioxide. Silica on reaction with oxygen, you will get silicon dioxide. Or this oxygen also helps in combustion process, right? Oxygen is also helps in combustion process. So in combustion process, suppose if you take methane, CH4 on reaction with oxygen. So what are the products that are going to come? In always combustion process, carbon dioxide and water are only the products. No other products will form. Now here 4 hydrogens are there, right? So keep 2 here. So total 4 oxygens. That's fine. So in it also helps in combustion process. Oxygen also helps in combustion process. Okay, is that clear? Next, we'll move to its uses. What is oxygen use? Mainly it is used in respiration of all type of life, like humans, animals, anything you can take. It is also helps in combustion process. Okay, it is also helps in oxygen cylinders. So first of all, that respiration and combustion, you know that those things, right? So what I'll write is some unknown uses of oxygen. Oxygen mainly used in oxyacetylene welding. Oxyacetylene welding. So this oxyacetylene welding is normally, it is used in manufacturing of metals and steel. In that industry, it is used. Okay, oxyacetylene welding. And the second use of oxygen is mainly oxygen cylinders. So where these oxygen cylinders are used, it is used in hospitals. Those who are facing problem with the, this breathing. Next, and high altitude climbers, okay, or high altitude flyers. High altitude flying people also use this oxygen cylinder. And even in mountaineering purpose also. It is also used by mountaineering persons. Okay. And another important use of oxygen is it is used as rocket fuel. It is used as rocket fuel in combination with hydrogens. So liquid oxygen and hydrogen. N2H4 is hydrogen. It is a very good rocket fuel. So it gives tremendous thrust to the tremendous thrust. So it is helps in lifting the rocket. Okay. So this oxygen is also used as rocket fuel in combination with the hydrogen. What is the name of this N2H4? Hydrogen. Okay, guys. Next, this sixth group elements, another concept we are moving into. So these are the important uses. Okay. The sixth group compounds also forms some simple oxides in combination with oxygen. Simple oxides. And any sixth group element with oxygen. So these simple oxides again are of 4 types. Are you listening, guys? 4 types. The first one I'm writing is acidic oxides. Acidic oxides means on reaction with water, they produces acids. Okay. On reaction with water, they produces acids. So best examples of acidic oxide are SO2, Cl2O7. Okay. Anything you can take. Suppose I am taking sulfur dioxide on reaction with water. It is an oxide, sixth group oxide. On reaction with water, it produces H2SO3. What is the name of this? Sulfurous acid. So this oxide on reaction with water, what is obtained? An acid is obtained. That's what they are called as acidic oxides. So here, what type of oxides acts as acidic oxides? So mostly, remember, mostly non-metal oxides. Non-metal oxides acts as acidic oxides. Non-metal examples mainly nitrogen, sulfur, phosphorus, chlorine. Look at this SO2, Cl2O7. You can also add non-metals like carbon is also a non-metal. Carbon dioxide is also an acidic oxide, N2O5. Okay, so these are all comes under acidic oxide. They act as non-metal oxides mainly acts as acidic oxide. Why they are acidic oxides? When these oxides when mixed with water they form acids. That's what they are named as acidic oxides. Okay. Now moving to second type of oxide, that is basic oxide. Oxide may be acidic, basic, amphoteric, neutral, anything it could be. Basic oxide. What is mean by basic oxide? On reaction with water, they produces basic compounds. So here, the best examples of that type is metal oxides, Na2O, calcium oxide, barium oxide, and so on. Look at this, sodium, calcium, barium. They are all first and second group elements only. First and second groups are metals, right? So, look at this, calcium oxide on reaction with water. What it will give you? Hydroxide, calcium hydroxide. So this is a basic compound, right? Basic means OH containing groups. Okay. So here, what type of oxides will act as basic oxides? Mostly metallic oxides or metallic oxides. Metallic oxides acts as basic oxides. Okay, have you understood? So what is a metallic oxides? Sodium is a metal. Calcium, barium, magnesium, anything you can take. Okay, so this is about acidic oxides and basic oxide. So what is the third one? Acid, base, both over. Next, amphoteric. Amphoteric oxides. Here, amphoteric oxides means they react with acids as well as bases. Are you listening? They react with acids and bases. So the best example of such kind is Al2O3, okay, tin oxide, zinc oxide, or aluminum oxide, this one, and lead oxide, so on. So let's take one example. I'll take aluminum oxide, Al2O3. Al2O3 is an amphoteric oxide. That means it reacts with both acids and bases. Amphoteric oxide. Okay. First, I will take an acid. Al2O3 on reaction with HCl in the presence of water. So how it will react? Let's see. This gives aluminum aqua hexa aqua complex. Normally aluminum shows +3 +3 oxidation state, and all the chlorines. So here 6 aqua ligands are there, right? Total 6 oxygens. Al2, 2 aluminums. Now here 6 chlorines. Okay, so this is an amphoteric oxide reacting with acid HCl. Next, I'll take same Al2O3 on reaction with a base. Sodium hydroxide is base or not? It is a base. On reaction with base, the presence of water, it again forms a complex hydroxides. Here actually Na3AlOH6 times 2 moles. 2 Na3, so total 6. Look at this. It is reacting with both acid and base and forming complexes. So that's what Al2O3 is said to be amphoteric in nature. It reacts with both acids and bases. Okay. Next one, I'll talk about neutral oxides. So what is the nature of a neutral oxide? That means they neither react with acid nor bases, right? So what is their nature? Neither reacts with acids nor with bases. So they won't react with either acids or bases. So what is the best example of such kind? Neutral. Carbon monoxide is a neutral ligand in coordination acid, carbon monoxide. Okay, nitric oxide, I'm sorry. Okay, nitrogen, this oxide, and nitrous oxide, N2O. So these are best examples of neutral oxides. So this is complete about your oxygen. Look at this, what we have done in oxygen study. Dioxygen preparation from 5 methods, then its properties, then its chemical property, reaction with metals, non-metals, and combustion process, and its uses. It's a uses. Then this oxygen on combination with some metals and non-metals, they found different types of oxides. They are simple oxides. There are 4 types. Acidic oxides, mostly they are non-metals. Basic oxides, mostly they are metallic oxides. Amphoteric, they reacts with both acids and bases, mostly third group, Al2O3, and fourth group below elements. So Al2O3, you just remember this one, Al2O3. Amphoteric means it reacts with both acids and bases. So one of such kind of reaction. In neutral oxides, it neither reacts with the acid nor with the bases. The best examples of this. So this is complete about oxygen study. Next we'll move to ozone. What is the formula of ozone, guys?
O3.
O3 is the ozone formula. Okay. Now ozone is normally where it is present? from the ground, it is present in about 20 kilometers in the stratosphere, right? So Earth have layers, right? In the stratosphere, Earth atmospheric have different layers. In the stratospheric layer, above 20 kilometers from the ground, this ozone is present, and okay, it will protect the Earth from what type of rays? Ultraviolet rays. Okay, it will stop UV rays, or stopped by, it will stop UV rays coming to the Earth. So UV rays, if it falls on animals or human beings, okay, normally skin related diseases comes. Okay, that's what UV rays are harmful. It is also harmful to the eyes. So this ozone present in the stratosphere, which stops UV rays. Ozone stops UV rays. Okay. Now, how to prepare this ozone? The first method of preparation of ozone, I think there is only one method of preparation for this, from oxygen. Okay. So when oxygen is taken, it will give you ozone. So just balance the equation. 3 moles of oxygen will give you 2 moles of ozone, O3. O2 is converting into O3. Here, the delta H, heat of the reaction, is positive. Here, nearly 142 kilojoules per mole amount of energy is required. So this positive sign indicates what? It is endothermic reaction. It is endothermic reaction. So this, remember, this reaction must be taken place in a silent electrical discharge. So why you need to use silent electrical discharge means, so due to this endothermic reaction, it will undergo decomposition. This ozone that is formed may undergo decomposition due to this endothermic reaction. So to prevent that, to prevent what? To prevent its decomposition. So you have to maintain silent electrical discharge. Okay. Here concentration, here we have prepared. Okay. Normally it is low. If concentration of ozone, if you want to create concentration of ozone greater than 10%, that you, okay, greater than 10%, you required, okay, you have to use ozonizers, ozonizer batteries. Ozonizer batteries are used. If concentration of ozone greater than 10%, if you want to create, so what you have to use? Ozonizer batteries. They can happily store more than 10% concentration of ozone. That is the purpose of these batteries. They can store oxygen which are having greater than 10%. Concentration of ozone greater than 10%. Next, its properties. Ozone properties. This is, here I am talking about color property. So if you look at the sky, okay, it will generally appear in a blue color, okay, sky blue. So above that you have some ozone layer is also present. So here normal ozone gas, O3 gas form is looks like pale blue. Okay, O3 gas is in pale blue color. Very important point this is. Okay, all the three I am going to write. So O3 liquid, ozone liquid is having dark blue color. Okay, and O3 solid ozone will have violet black color. Okay, so please keep star marks here. These colors are important based on the phase. Okay, solid phase violet black, liquid phase dark blue, gaseous phase pale blue. Like that, the color of the ozone is changing. That's what it is. Okay. Next, ozone up to some level it is okay, but if more concentration of ozone increases in this atmosphere, suppose if O3 concentration, ozone concentration is greater than 100 ppm. What is mean by ppm? What is mean by ppm? Parts per million. If this is high excess, okay, so that brings some problems. So if concentration of ozone is greater than 100 ppm, you will have breathing problem. You will face breathing problem, and that results in headache. So when you have breathing problem, its consequence is a headache and a nausea, vomiting sensation like that. Okay. So here another important point is ozone O3 is thermodynamically. That means thermally. Okay. Thermodynamically, ozone is thermodynamically unstable. Okay. When compared to oxygen, normal oxygen O2 is highly thermodynamically stable. But when compared to oxygen, ozone is thermodynamically unstable. Okay. So that's what it undergoes decomposition. Ozone undergoes decomposition. How it will undergo decomposition? O3 on decomposition, it will give you O2 and single oxygen. This single oxygen, instead of single oxygen in chemistry, whenever single atoms are present like this, normally it exists as diatomic. Oxygen exists as a diatomic molecule. So when you have a single oxygen atom, we call it as nascent oxygen. We call it as nascent oxygen. So this nascent oxygen is released. That means it can donate this oxygen to some other group. So here ozone acts as a powerful oxidizing agent. So here O3, because it is giving out oxygen, so this oxygen can be utilized by some other atoms, okay, for oxidation purpose. So here ozone acts as powerful oxidizing agent. Okay, it acts as a powerful oxidizing agent. So here, so how ozone helps in oxidation purpose? Suppose let's take few examples of that. First one, sulfides are converting into sulfates. Look at this, only S minus 2 is converting to SO4. That means oxygens are added here. This oxygen comes from ozone. So let's write its equation. When lead sulfide, that means in the form of S minus 2 it is, lead sulfide on reaction with ozone, it will converting into lead sulfate plus O2. O3 is converting into O2 and this oxygen is absorbed by lead sulfide. So it's converting into sulfate. Sulfides are converting into sulfates. So what is the oxidation state here? Okay, minus 2. Okay, converting into SO4 2 minus. So here if you observe, there is no oxygens on lead sulfide, but here 4 oxygens. That means addition of oxygen is called oxidation or not? Yes. Extra oxygens you have added here. So it is nothing but oxidation. Addition of oxygen, increase in oxidation number, removal of hydrogen, they all comes under oxidation, isn't it? Next, iodides are converting into iodine. What is oxidation state here? -1, converting into 0. Here 4, here 2, 6. So I'll use. Okay, fine. Iodides are converting into iodine. So let's take one iodide on reaction with ozone in the presence of water, that converts to iodine plus OH minus and oxygen. Always you look at this, oxygen is converting, ozone is converting into oxygen. Ozone is converting into oxygen. That oxygen somewhere over here, look at this. So here -1 oxidation state converting into 0. -1 to 0 means increase in oxidation state only, isn't it? Increase in oxidation state only, na? So that's what it is, oxidation. Okay, next one. Third one. Direct addition of oxygen atoms. Look at this. Silver oxide and O2. Fine. Ag2O plus O2. Suppose mercury you are taking. Mercury on reaction with O3, converting into mercuric oxide plus O2. So these are the products. So here, this is how oxygen is acting as a, so what is the important point here? Sorry, ozone is acting as a powerful oxidizing agent. So for that, examples are here. Okay, ozone is a powerful oxidizing agent. Sulfides are converting into sulfates. Iodides are converting into iodine. Simple atoms are converting into their simple metals, if you take, converting into their metal oxides, addition of oxygen. So it is oxidation, right? So this is about oxygen, oh sorry, ozone chemical properties. Another important point is there here. This is also important. I'll keep star mark. The concept is called tailing of mercury. So what is here mean by tailing of mercury? So here, first I'll give you introduction about mercury. So you might have observed thermometer. Okay, temperature checking purpose it is used. If you take a thermometer, okay, so at the bottom you have mercury first. So if the temperature is increased, this mercury level will rise, isn't it? And it will show like this type of. This is called meniscus. Meniscus. That means if this is a, okay, this test tube or anything you can take, this type of formation, this is your liquid. Okay, this is called meniscus. Okay, have you understood what is meniscus? Meniscus means this type, and it will simply rise up when temperature is increases, and it will come down when temperature is decreased. Is that clear? Okay, are you following, guys? Are you listening, girls?
Yes, sir.
Have you understood what is meniscus? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this meniscus here, tailing of mercury means loss of this meniscus. When it is rising, when mercury is rising in this tube, okay, it will not stick to the walls. Sticking to the walls means what? So it will rise like this. only from one side. Okay, like this. So it is meniscus means this. If the mercury is stick to the walls, it looks like this. If this is the interior walls of this tube, okay, it will simply like this. So meniscus is lost in this. So tailing of mercury means loss of meniscus of mercury is called tailing of mercury. How this is lost? Meniscus is lost. How? Here, this meniscus of mercury is lost due to the, it is due to the dissolution of this mercuric oxide Hg2O in mercury. Okay, mercury loses its meniscus. Its meniscus. So when it lost the meniscus, it sticks to the sides of the glass container. Okay, when it lost the meniscus and starts sticking to the sides of the glass container. Okay, so what is a tailing of mercury? Tailing of mercury means, here I'll write loss of meniscus, and they will stick to the glass container sides. Okay, that is tailing of mercury. How it happens? When mercuric oxide Hg2O is dissolved in mercury, in this mercuric tube, okay, what is this thermometer? When mercuric oxide Hg2O is added, it lost its meniscus. That's it. Have you understood? Yes, guys. So losing of this meniscus is called tailing of mercury. Okay. Why it happens? Due to the addition of Hg2O in mercury Hg. Okay. Now how it can be regained? That meniscus. Okay. So one observation is that meniscus is not permanently stick to the walls, that mercury. So here meniscus can be regained. So meniscus regained by shaking with water. By shaking with water. So what happens when you shake with water? Here that dissolves mercuric oxide. So mercuric oxide will be dissolved in that case. So meniscus can be regained by shaking with the water. Okay. So this is about your ozone properties. Next, some quantitative method estimation of ozone. How ozone is estimated quantitatively. Ozone quantitative estimation. So here, are you listening? Here, ozone first reacted with the potassium iodide. Okay, I said when it reacts with iodide, it will convert to iodine. Okay, so I am not writing the balanced equation, just writing this. What is a quantitative method? That means in an unknown sample, if some ozone is mixed, how to find that mass of ozone that is present in that unknown sample? Suppose I gave you a spatula of having some sample, some unknown sample. In that some ozone is there, suppose. Okay, you found that ozone is there. And how much quantity? The weight of ozone, weight of O3. To find that purpose, this quantitative estimation of is used. It is done by first reaction with potassium iodide. You have to use excess potassium iodide. So in the first case, you will get iodine, and the iodine that is appeared here, that is iodine that is formed. That means here the amount of ozone, okay, is utilized to convert iodide to iodine. So some ozone is utilized here, right? So it is equal to the number of iodides converting into iodine. That much ozone is present in this. Okay. So here iodine further reacted with sodium thiosulfate, Na2S2O4, sodium thiosulfate, and that gives you, again it converts to iodide. Okay, this is actually a titration method. So what you need to remember in this is ozone reaction with potassium iodide, first step in quantitative estimation. In second step, that iodine that is formed in the first step is titrated against sodium thiosulfate. Okay, so that is quantitative estimation of ozone. Next one, reaction with alkenes or alkynes. Your ozone reacts with alkenes and alkynes. Mainly ozone is used as an oxidizing agent, isn't it? So that's what, when double bonds are easily breaked by your ozone. When ozone reacts with this, here double bond will break like this, here one oxygen, here one oxygen. So what is the product you are going to get? The product you are going to get CH2O, CH2O. How many moles? 2 moles. And byproduct I'll write here. What is the intermediate formed in this reaction? Normally first an intermediate is formed, CH2, CH2O, a 5-membered cyclic ozonoid ring. What is the name of this? It is ozonoid. Ozonoid. It is formed from which compound? Ethylene. So it is called ethylene ozonoid. On this ethylene ozonoid, if you use zinc reducing agent, okay, so it will break the molecule into symmetrical way. This side one CH2O, this side one CH2O. That becomes 2 moles of CH2O, and this oxygen and this zinc converts to zinc oxide. So from alkenes, what is the final product you are getting? Formaldehyde. Okay. So here the double bond positions in alkenes are identified by ozonolysis. If 1 mole of ozone is reacted, one double bond is present in the given compound. If 2 moles of ozonolysis, so how many ozone molecules are utilized here? 1 mole. So in an unknown compound, whether the double bonds are present or not, that can be identified by ozonolysis. What is the name of this reaction? Ozonolysis. Lysis. Lysis means what? Breaking of double bond. If 1 mole is utilized, 1 double bond. 2 moles utilized, 2. So in an unknown compound, the number of double bonds are identified by using ozonolysis method. Okay. Next. Here, ozone is present in a stratosphere, right? But it is, okay? It is, and it is going to be also get damaged by some different gases which are exhausted from supersonic jet planes, or also from refrigerator gases like freons, chlorofluorocarbons, CFC, isn't it? So here ozone concentration, okay, ozone depletion we call it as. Depletion means a decrease in concentration of ozone is observed in the upper atmosphere. Okay, ozone depletion is caused by what? Mainly chlorofluorocarbons, CFC, chlorofluorocarbons. Mainly they are used in refrigerators. Okay, and chlorofluorocarbons, that is refrigerators. Next, it is also get damaged by jet planes exhaust. So what is the jet plane exhaust? In jet plane exhaust, supersonic jets, okay, they fly in this ozone layer region. They generally releases that exhaust is NO, nitrogen oxide. So this NO on reaction with ozone, that produces what? Nitrogen dioxide and oxygen. Have you understood? That means ozone is depleted, ozone is converted into oxygen. So ozone layer is damaged, right? So ozone depletion is mainly caused by two things: chlorofluorocarbons, that is used in refrigerators, and from jet plane exhaust, mainly nitrogen oxide. So this reaction happens, ozone is get damaged. Okay. So if it is damaged, ozone layer is damaged, what happens? You will get skin diseases. Okay. UV light will directly comes to the planet Earth. So it will disturb the aqua and animatic life, right? Next, it's a structure if you observe. Okay, ozone structure I'm talking about. Ozone structure is an angular shaped structure. This is ozone structure. Okay, here oxygen 2 lone pairs, here 1 lone pair, here 3 lone pairs, because one bond is less. Always oxygen tries to form 2 bonds. If you write it's a resonance structure, this double bond is not static here. It will change from this oxygen to this oxygen also. So if you write it's a resonance structure, you'll get like this. Okay. So here this oxygen now gets 3 lone pairs. Here it will 2 lone pairs, and this is 1 lone pair. Okay. And it's a resonance hybrid. If you write it's both structures are resonance hybrid structure I'm writing. Oxygen, oxygen, oxygen. Okay. Here the bond angle is 128 picometers. Bond length, okay, bond length. And your bond angle is 117 degrees. That means in ozone, the bond lengths are same. There is no two different bond lengths in this. This bond length, because it will interchange rapidly. So this double bond is not fixed onto these two carbons. It may between these two or between these two oxygens. Okay. So the bond length is only one type of bond length is present in this. So very, very important point. This is ozone is having how many different types of bond lengths? Oxygen bond lengths, only one type, that is 128 picometers. Okay. And if you observe its structure, it is an angular shape. Angular. Okay. And only one type of bond length. Only one type of bond length is present in it. Only one type of bond length is present in this. Okay. So this is complete about your ozone molecule and its preparation methods. So let's go back to this, what we have just done with ozone, right? In ozone, its preparation method from oxygen to ozone, and it is endothermic. Important point. Okay. And color property is important. So after that, it acts as oxidizing agent. Next one is tailing of mercury. What is meant by tailing of mercury? So loses meniscus. Okay, mercury loses meniscus due to the dissolution of mercuric oxide in Hg. mercuric oxide is dissolved in mercury, in that case, this meniscus is lost. Okay, that means losing of meniscus will leads to the mercury is sticks to the sides of the glass container. So this meniscus can be regained by shaking with water, okay, when which dissolves mercury oxide. So the quantitative estimation of ozone can be done by on reaction with excess potassium iodide. In the first step, the iodine that is formed is used in the second step reaction with sodium thiosulfide. Okay. Next, on reaction with alkenes or alkynes. Okay. So here, what is the point? The number of double bonds is identified by an unknown alkene is done by ozonolysis. The intermediate formed in this is ethylene ozonide. And ozone depletion mainly caused by two causes, mainly caused by two reasons. It is CFC refrigerators, okay, chlorofluorocarbons, and jet plane exhaust, nitric oxide. Okay. So this is how ozone depletion takes place. Ozone is converting into O2 due to this NO. It attracts one more oxygen, so it becomes NO2 and O2. So this ozone is having angular shape and it is having only one type of bond length, only one type of oxygen bond length, and its length is 124 picometers. Bond angle is 117. So this is about your ozone. Okay. Next, its uses we are going to discuss now. Uses of ozone. So mainly, if you have purchased a water bottle, they will mention on the water bottle, it is purified by UV ozonolysis. Okay, sometimes it is mentioned only. So different companies are using different techniques to, this purifying the water. So here it is mainly used as used for sterilizing of water, and it is also used as disinfectant. So it is having some germicidal nature. So it is used as germicide. That means it kills germs. Ozone, it kills germs. And germicide, disinfectant, and it is also used for sterilizing of water. Okay. Next, it is also used in bleaching purpose. So here bleaching means not that face bleaching. Bleaching means here a color compound is converting into colorless compound. That is called bleaching. Okay. So in textile industry, in food industry mainly. So oils, the raw oil extracted from sunflower or cotton, any groundnut oil, anything, any oils if you take, they will have some different colors. So to remove that color from the oils, to make it low intense colors, the bleaching action is used. So this bleaching action is mainly used in oils, okay, and flours and starch decoloration. It is used. So here bleaching means a colored compound is converting into colorless compound. Why it is converting into colorless compound? Due to oxidation, because ozone is acting as a oxidizing agent, isn't it, guys? So here this ozone is also used as the manufacturing of KMnO4. So it acts as oxidizing agent in manufacturing of KMnO4. So it is also used in KMnO4 manufacturing. Okay, so this is about your ozone uses. So next, sulfur. This is complete about oxygen. We are talking about sixth group, right? So in any group, if you take first two elements, study is very extensive. Like if you take fifth group, nitrogen, phosphorus, we have done extensively. And sixth group also, oxygen and sulfur, we are going to talk in a deep subject. So here, oxygen is over. Complete about oxygen is done. Next, we'll move to sulfur. So in tomorrow's session, I will talk about sulfur and its allotropes and its oxy acids and what is their nature. Everything we'll discuss in the next class. So I'll send these notes into your WhatsApp groups. Please revise this again and again. You have at least one question comes from this area from today's session. Okay. Hope you understood well. Okay, I'm signing off. Okay, thank you guys, all of you. Shall I off the screen? Yes, please respond. Bhavyasri?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Chalo, thank you all of you. Bye.